Want to unlock your scream in 30 days? If you've been trying for years, that might sound crazy, but hear me out. Jesse spent months taking lessons from scream teachers. He was super frustrated because he never really broke through. All he wanted was to record vocals for his own songs, and he kept wondering, is my voice just not meant for screaming? But I'm going to show you the process I took him through that got him screaming in just 2 weeks. And by the way, this is something I get people to do every week because I've been teaching screaming full-time since 2019, and I've taught over 2,000 students and had over 3,000 one-on-one consultations with non-students. In this video, I'm going to show you the process of how to unlock your scream in 30 days. Okay, let's first define what it means to unlock your scream. For this video, I'm defining it as being able to find the correct tone consistently enough to say words and cover a song with it. In 2023, I did a survey of my students and I found that the ones that made the quickest progress practiced daily for 30 to 60 minutes and met with me at least once per week. So keep that in mind. If you're doing that kind of consistent work and you've got the right info, you'll probably move a lot quicker. Let's jump into the first step. So when I first started working with Jesse, I ran him through a bunch of exercises and figured out that it was tricky for him to use his head voice and lower chest voice. On top of that, he was used to getting an Elmo sound with most of what he did. So instead of fighting against his habits, I had him find a scream in his upper chest voice register and showed him how to disengage from the wrong tissues and engage his vocal cords to do a fry scream. And within the first lesson, we got him to sound like this. And that got him motivated and gave him proof that he could scream. So that brings me to the first step. Start with the scream that comes easiest to you first. Many people don't realize there's different types of false chord, fries, hybrids, and arytenoid screams. And though everyone can do all of them, everyone's got different vocal habits, so some types will come easier than others for you. The key is to not just try one approach over and over and over again if it's not working. You want to try an infinite amount of approaches till you find one that works well for you. And regardless of the type of scream you go for, you want to make sure that it doesn't have the following problems. 1, it's not airy. 2, it's not using the wrong tissues, which make you either sound like Elmo, a buzzer, or cause pain. And 3, it's not too voicey, unless you intentionally want a voicey scream. So whichever scream allows you to scream the easiest without hitting those 3 problems, focus on that first. Try them all and focus on the one that gives you that initial distortion sound the easiest. And this is where having an outside informed perspective really helps. But if you do this right, you can nail this in about 15 minutes on the first day. Now, a caveat is that what a lot of people don't realize is that there's going to be a discrepancy between how you think you sound versus how you actually sound. So you're probably going to be unaware when you're doing this right. And to fix this, I would say to record yourself and analyze it back to see if it sounds good. As a side note, I could easily spend hours on this specific step of the video because there's lots of nuance to this, but I don't want this part of the video to drag. So if you want in-depth info and different methods to find a scream that comes easiest to you, I'll link a free training in the description. Anyways, back to the video. So after finding the scream tone that works easiest for you, the next step is to get more consistent. So I noticed that once people get to this point, people actually start getting discouraged because they have an unreasonable expectation that if you hit it once, you should be able to hit it every time. Meanwhile, they're hitting it and then they feel like they're not hitting it again consistently. Now what it is that most people think that progress looks like a staircase where if you improve, then that's immediately your new level, and then you improve again, and then that's immediately your new level. In reality, screaming progress looks more like this. It comes in glimpses. But if you're headed in the right direction, then you get more and more frequent glimpses of progress. And we want to improve its consistency. So a note about that, I've seen students be really hard on themselves for not being 100% consistent with their screams, but the reality is that you'll never be 100% consistent. Whenever I unlock a new vocal technique, it takes me about 3 months of daily practice before I'm about 60% consistent, and then another 8 months to become 90% consistent. And as I continue practicing, I get closer and closer to 100% consistency. And by the way, because we're human, you'll never exactly be 100% consistent. And as a side note, I noticed that at this stage, a person's trauma and history with success and failure starts to play a role. This is when mindset and self-belief really matters. Do you genuinely believe that you're capable of achieving your goals? Or do you deep down believe that you'll never be able to do it and accomplish your goals, so you use any bit of proof to reaffirm that negative mindset? This is a much deeper topic, but for now, just know that you don't want to be discouraged by the attempts where you didn't pull off the scream as well as you once did. You want to be encouraged by the few glimpses you have. You don't want to be discouraged by the fact that you don't sound like you're screaming idle. You want to be encouraged by the fact that you've made progress. And by the way, it's super important that you stay consistent with practice. Breaking the chain of practice at this stage can make you easily forget everything. Now, as you get more consistent, I want you to focus on nailing down single vowels first. Students often try and immediately say words at this point, but get discouraged when they can't do it. But that's rushing the process at this point. I would generally recommend starting with E, E, A, O's to see which vowel feels the easiest. So then I want you to focus on morphing whatever vowel comes easiest to you into the others while holding the distortion. So if A is your jam, but you're struggling with O, then you can go and this exercise will help you stay in the pocket while moving in between sounds. So after you feel comfortable with your different vowels, I want you to focus on starting to say A, B, C slowly. If that's tough, try saying it more relaxed. Until it feels easier, then gradually pronounce that more clearly. Once you can do that, I want you to try to record a couple verses of a simple cover. Because if you can say ABC, then you're actually ready to record a cover. Now at this point, you don't need to have 90% consistency in order to do a cover, meaning you don't need to be able to scream 95 times out of 100 as good as you want. And in fact, for covers, I'd recommend hitting at around 60% consistency at least. And the reason is that in recording, you can take as many takes as you want. And with 60% consistency, you can generally hit a good take that's good within 3 to 4 attempts. The other reason why I think 60% consistency is a good threshold is that in order to go from 0% consistency to 60% consistency, there's generally knowledge gaps where students don't know how to distort right. They don't know they don't know the proper volume they should be aiming for, the amount of push, the amount of compression. But once you're at 60% consistency, then going from 60% consistency to 95% consistency, that's usually just practice. So that's why I think if you're at 60% consistency, you've actually done kind of the hard brain work. Anyway, when you're doing a cover, do it one line at a time so you can smooth out the tricky parts of your scream. And as you make your way through more and more covers, your consistency will improve even quicker because you're not just recording yourself this way, but this way allows you to troubleshoot any tricky words or any weaknesses in the way that you're screaming. The last thing is that it's super important that you learn to record your cover at a professional level and listen back to it. Because I've noticed that it's specifically at this point when people hear back their screams professionally recorded and it makes it real to them that they've actually unlocked their screams. And that was my personal experience as well. Now remember, you can get through this whole process in 2 to 3 weeks if everything goes smoothly, meaning that you have no issues like airiness, pain, or anything like that. The toughest and most variable part of this process is getting that initial scream, and of course having a well-informed outside perspective can help you with that. After that is step 6. After Jesse was at this point making covers, then he built a foundation of compression that made it easier for him to understand the next scream, doing chest voice false chords, and he was able to unlock it super quickly, even though this was difficult for him a month ago. Why? Because in many ways, the first screams you can learn make it easier for you to unlock other screams because your understanding and muscle memory has improved. So in other words, the final step is to use your learnings from this scream and then try the next easiest scream. What people don't realize is that as you've gotten more familiar with this first scream, your muscle memory has actually changed and more things will be available to you that weren't in the past. Okay, what are things that will make it take longer than 30 days? The first thing is the belief that this can't be done in 30 days. I know there's many people who will watch this and say impossible, despite the fact that I do this all the time. Next, not having the right information and guidance. Next, not knowing what good distortion sounds like. Otherwise, you'll be wandering around in the dark. Next, trying the same approach to get your screams over and over again. I spent 4 to 5 years doing variations of the deep sigh approach to find my false chords, on the hope that just practicing that would get me there. Don't be like me. Next, if you have any beliefs that say, oh, I should never do this, or I should always do that, oftentimes it's those beliefs that we never think to question that hold us back and prevent us from making progress. Next, the underlying genuine belief that you can't do something. I touched upon this earlier, but if you have this mindset, you're looking for proof that you're losing and it's really demotivating. Instead, I want you to be motivated by those glimpses of progress that you see. Within these 30 days, once you find the right tone, you need to consistently practice every day and not break the chain. Otherwise, progress won't compound and it's very easy for you to go backwards and lose your progress. After Jesse went through this, it completely changed the game for him. He's now able to scream and record a demo. Now, if you want my help to speed you through this process for your voice, then you can start by checking out the free training I left in the description. Otherwise, check out this video for a couple of different approaches to nailing your scream.